So when I started developing a video game, of all the obstacles that I thought I might run into, I didn't expect the implosion of the world's most popular and well-established game engine to be on that list. But here we are. If you haven't heard, in over the last week, Unity has announced some changes that have not been received well at all. The core change that is in question is the introduction of what is being called the runtime fee, which basically just says that if someone anywhere installs your game on any device, you now owe Unity 20 cents for that installation. So I'll just jump right into it. The fee itself is not necessarily the cause for alarm, in my opinion. The fee is very bad, and it could, in certain situations, has been mathematically shown to be possible to bankrupt studios. There's certain revenue models where that 20-cent fee would literally eclipse the earnings of a game under certain circumstances. But I'm more alarmed by the way Unity announced this, with pretty much no lead up, no input from the community, and also doing a bunch of sneaky behind the scenes things to attempt to cover themselves legally to retroactively make a change. And I say retroactively because this change, which is rolling out in January, is going to apply to games that have already been released. So it's not just a line in the sand where it's all new games would have to deal with this. Old games would have to deal with it as well. But for me, the first question that came to my mind, which is a very valid question, which has already been asked, is how does Unity plan on tracking these installs? And Unity's response to this is so head-scratchingly corporate and it's just a full-on non-answer. And I want to show you the tweet where this was actually asked. So Cactus VR Studios responded to Unity's initial announcement post and just bluntly asked, how are installs tracked? Exactly what I wanted to know. And Unity's response was, we leverage our own proprietary data model, so you can appreciate that we won't go into a lot of detail, but we believe it gives an accurate determination of the number of times the runtime is distributed for a given project. Basically, they're saying they have a little magical black box that data goes in, it does something that we can't tell you about, and then it just spits out a number. And we just have to trust Unity that number is in fact accurate. This has got to be the worst response to the most basic and plausible question that could have come out of this. When I read this tweet, I was just oh my god. So Unity tried to soften the blow a little bit, and every time they said something and tried to clarify something, it just seemed to make things worse. I love this tweet by Konjak. This is the developer of a game called Iconoclasts. If you haven't played that game, just go buy it immediately. It's great, wonderful game. He says, I love the "it won't affect 90% of you" response from Unity because it's secretly a "most of you will fail anyway" statement. Most devs would love to sell 200,000, and they probably intend to. So the 200,000 figure is one of the thresholds for the install fee to actually kick in. And so when Unity is saying this isn't even going to affect 90% of you, they're kind of it's kind of like this backhanded way of just letting us know that they really don't care much about indie developers, right? They only care about the 10% that are making big bucks because that's where they're going to cash in on this. And in one sense, that is kind of true, where you do have to hit a certain threshold for this fee to kick in. But as soon as the fee kicks in, you're basically on the hook for all the previous sales. So once you hit that 200,000 install threshold, you now owe the fee on the 200,000 that got you there. So there could be a point a point in a game sales cycle where you're looking at the numbers going up, and you might start thinking to yourself I hope it doesn't hit 200,000 because I'm gonna get a really big bill from Unity next week if it does. So that just conceptually like boggles my mind. So the backlash to this, understandably, has been quite overwhelming, with, like, at this point, I want to say hundreds of studios releasing press release statements saying, basically, we're not going to use Unity anymore. We're stopping all of our Unity ads. We're going to switch to Unreal Engine. We're going to switch to Godot Engine. We're going to finish our game in Unity, but next project, we're definitely not using Unity. The amount of, like, brand damage that has been inflicted in just basically a 24-hour span, like, from one day to the next, it was like Unity was the greatest platform ever, to, like, now people don't even want to see that little splash screen that says made with Unity at the beginning, is pretty staggering. So before I talk about how this is going to affect Nixie specifically, I'll just give you my own personal opinion on it. I do not see how Unity could possibly ship this set of changes as is, like as it reads currently. The backlash is just so overwhelming. There's no way that they could go through with this. There's just no way. So in my opinion, there's going to be some sort of rollback. There's going to be major amendments to this. They might scrap it entirely and be like, hey, you know, we're going to come out with a new announcement, or we're going to rethink this, a new fee structure or something. Changes are coming, but it won't be this. Maybe something along those lines. Which I think every day that Unity doesn't do that is to their detriment. Like, they need to, like, say something, and something soon, to, like, control this damage. Now, as far as this affects Nixie specifically, I'm in a bit of a weird place, because I spent the last 2 years working on this project, and a big chunk of that was learning Unity. You know, I didn't spend 2 years just making Nixie the game. A lot of that time was learning this software, you know, learning how to code and deal with the Unity editor and manage assets and all sorts of things. So there's a lot of time invested in this platform, and the engine itself is, like, great. There's a reason why it is the most used engine in the industry, and it was used to develop some of my all-time favorite games, and I want to continue using it. Like, I like it. I'm comfortable in it now. And like I said, a lot of time invested in learning this thing. To switch to another engine would just take a long time. I don't think it would take as long to learn a new engine, but it would still take a significant amount of time. So, combined with the fact that I don't think these changes are going to actually come to fruition, and the fact that I just have a lot invested in this game, my gut reaction at the moment is to just sort of push forward and see what happens. If these changes do go through, it'll be disheartening, and I'll really have to consider, like, a major change. You know, my motivation to open the editor has been pretty low right now. Luckily, I've been filling that time with working on the Steam page, which will be available soon. I can't imagine that the Unity editor would completely die. It is possible, but this is not some piece of software that's being used by, like, one or two major indie studios. This is Unity. I mean, it's being used by Nintendo. I mean, Pokemon Go. I mean, the list goes on of, like, the huge releases that have been developed in Unity. So, I mean, this is affecting fish way bigger than me, who's just making a game for fun in his bedroom, right? So there's going to be a major legal pushback, in addition to the cultural pushback that's happening right now. So yeah, the plan for right now is to just keep working on Nixie in Unity. We'll see what happens. Yeah. It does suck, though. It's crazy to think that the landscape of how game engines work and how game studios rely on these engines in such a way can be exploited, which is exactly what Unity is doing. I mean, they are exploiting their developers. They're exploiting their user base by doing this. And it's scary, you know, because what's stopping them from making another crazy change next year, or 5 years from now, or 10 years down the line? That's kind of the heart of what it means to sever trust. You know, you see a lot of people saying trust has been broken. Even if they roll back the fees, the trust has been broken, right? So, in many ways, I strongly agree with that. So I'm sort of going to continue using this thing tenuously, like, well, let's see where it goes. Hopefully it doesn't completely drive off a cliff and I end up regretting not changing engines right now. It's a strong possibility, but I don't know. Not a good feeling. Not a good feeling, but we're going to see what happens. Anyway, thanks for listening to this little mini rant here. Please join the Nixie Discord if you haven't. The demo is available. There is a link in the Discord to download the demo. And once the Steam page is launched, I'll be making a more public announcement about being able to download the demo right from the website without having to join the Discord, though I would love to have you in there so you can share your feedback and thoughts on your initial reaction to playing the game. But anyway, yeah, so we'll see what happens. See ya.